everybody. Welcome back to Bro Op. This is Michael Gaschak, your host. My co-host, Jim DeVolis. So hello, sir.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about the evolution of actually getting games. Actually, owning a physical copy to where we're at today, where everything is digital distribution and downloadable and just pretty much not really owning a physical copy of games much anymore, especially if you're a PC gamer.
Yeah, you talk about where it started. Cartridges, man. If you were a console player, you had cartridges, and you had lots of them. If you were a PC player, you had floppy disks, and you had the big suckers. I still remember Oregon Trail on floppy disks. But yeah, those were how they started for physical copies of games.
And then we went to the hard floppies, which were like, 3.5, 3.25, something like that?
Yeah, the hard floppies, they were fun too. They lasted for a while before CDs came out.
Yeah, and then there was the whole, the decade that was the 90s, and that was dominated by the CDs.
CD-ROM, man, the technology that'll never die.
Never, ever, never die. Oh yeah, totally. I'm just I heard that. I remember hearing that when I was young. This one never go out. Okay. Well, and then it goes to DVDs. Now most of them are on DVDs because they held more. And then there are PS3, they're Blu-rays. That because they hold 8 gigs or something like that. And then now today, for PC gaming specifically, a lot of the games are just downloaded. You just download them through a client like Steam or Origin,
or GameFly.
Or GameFly, yeah, that too. Actually, speaking of which, GameFly has an awesome deal where there's a lot of unlimited PC play for them for $8 or $9 a month. Like a lot of older games, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but still, that's pretty cool.
We just want to thank our sponsors, GameFly, for taking care of the show for us.
Yeah. Thanks, GameFly. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And,
the physical aspect of a game has dried up. It's a very fascinating thing at this point, because if you are associated in the PC market especially, and even over in consoles in terms of Xbox Arcade, okay, is a game market. But your game markets on PC, there are many. They all tend to carry the same games. You can price shop very efficiently, which is very nice between the game houses. But most importantly and interestingly enough, and this is the crazy part about it, you don't own a physical copy of your game anymore.
Nope.
You think about your systems that you owned. By the time you were done with your Super Nintendo, you had your Super Nintendo, and chances are you had 16 3-inch plastic blocks that you traded in or sold or gave to somebody else. You don't have that stuff anymore. It doesn't exist.
No. I think it cuts out the middleman, though, when it comes to a GameStop trying to trade in games and whatnot. That's why there's the whole controversy between the next gen of consoles, whether they're going to be able to trade in the games anymore, if they're going to have an ID thing so that you can't actually, only one person per copy. So it's going to be interesting to see. But one of the things that makes me a little bit nervous about digital distribution is that you don't, like you just brought up a moment ago, is that you don't own a physical copy of the game anymore. You actually own a quote-unquote license to play the game. So I don't necessarily know how that works. How do I only own a license? Like if Valve or Origin were to ever, even though they're backed by multi-million-dollar companies, what if they ever went down the tubes? What happens to the money I've invested into my Steam library or my Origin library? I just don't know where that goes, and that makes me nervous. Does that make you nervous?
Oh, of course. Of course it does. But for years, particularly in the generation of the 90s, one of the biggest crusades that you saw fought was the crusade against piracy. And we would sit there, I know I did plenty of times, and go, I really don't see what the big deal of this is. I've bought a copy of Warcraft 2, and I now want to let my friend play my copy of Warcraft 2 on his computer, and he may let his next friend use that copy. What is the big deal? The gaming markets went, we're losing too much money. And now you see the response to it. The response of, your game is fingerprinted with your ID. You buy it, but you don't actually own it. It's much akin to insurance in that way.
Yeah, you just mentioned about insurance. Like, I want insurance that I will be able to keep my games if something goes down with Valve or Origin. And you read the EULI, the End User License Agreement, and in there it doesn't actually say anything about what would happen if they go down, because obviously they're not planning to go down anytime soon. But it's a very, very volatile thought process when it's in my brain. I just think, what if 5 or 6 years from now I have 300 games on my Steam library, and all of a sudden something with Valve happens where they just, completely implode, what happens then? Like, let's speculate here. What do you think the response would be if all of a sudden all these PC gamers no longer owned their games? Do you think it would just be a huge gaming crash from just a PC, or do you think it would have repercussions across consoles as well?
That is a strange question. In particular, because what the hell do you do? You have no legal rights. You have only a license to play a video game. That's all you're getting. There's really no speculation I can come up with at that point. However, I can offer some hope. And this is really the only response I can come up with to it, okay? For years, you think about all the games that you've owned. Think about how many games you tried to hold on to play later. And either you weren't able to because you didn't have the system any longer to play it, or, be honest, you lost it somewhere along the way. These game houses are now archiving your game library. They're now making it available to play that game for years to come without ever disappearing. Now, no longer and gone are the days, by the way, of buying a game that's outdated as soon as its system's outdated.
Yeah.
These games now have a life of their own, and they'll continue to be played for as long as these game houses continue to be played. These game houses will continue to be played as long as we keep playing video games, until the next big thing comes. And that really is not so much a matter of what if they ever crash or go under. It's a matter of what happens to those games when the next big thing comes out. And that's more or less my question.
That is a good question. Well, I think that we're moving in a different direction with gaming. I think it's becoming more of a tool for storytelling than it is for let me sit down and shoot some other guy in the head. I mean, there is a huge market for that, don't get me wrong. But you were talking about those game houses. There's a game house called GOG.com, which has all these games I played in the early 90s. And they're $2 or $3. But now I'm able to go back and for a few dollars just download them. Not even get a physical copy like we were talking last show. Just download them immediately.
And in particular, though, even besides game sites like that, if for those of us that are a little bit more creative and willing to put in the work, you can still emulate the old school games, one way or another through venues like DOSBox. It kind of is a testament, if you think about it, to the fact that games don't die. So if games don't die, why do you need a physical copy? And that's the age that we're in. So it's a really fascinating argument. If the internet is ever expansive, doesn't run out of room, doesn't die anytime soon, then you can pretty much find any game that you've ever played.
That is a good, hopeful answer. I like that. Definitely, emulation is something that I think we can look forward to in the future when it comes to older games and whatnot. So this has been episode 3. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. You guys have a good day and keep on playing games. Bye.